Donuts and a black coffee. Hard to name a better duo.
Donuts and a Dr. Pepper.
That's stupid.
What's going on, everyone? I'm Travis Brown, KBTX senior Texas A&M sports writer. Over there, chief meteorologist Max Crawford.
Look at us.
It's easier when there's just two.
Yeah.
You don't have to remember
you
the
only
third
have to remember
person.
one of them.
This is the Aggie Game Day Extra podcast where we talk all things Aggie sports and like a little bit of everything else. We are not joined today, unfortunately, by one of our other KBTX sports compatriots.
They got stuff to do. It's a busy time of year. And one of them, Tyler's, had to do some really cool stuff this afternoon.
State basketball.
Yeah.
San Antonio.
We've got the Hearn Eagles going to the state tournament. Such a cool story. That head coach took the girls' team to state the year before and has now taken the guys to state. Mm-hmm. That's awesome. I've never heard of that before.
Do you know, can't remember if you were in the meeting when we talked about this, the last time Hearn was in the state championship game.
Yes. Shaq is
they
the
played
answer.
against Shaq.
Right. Yeah.
And San Antonio.
Nicole tried to school me with that one. It's like, no. I know Daryl Bruffett and Cody Coyle. They schooled me on that years ago.
This is the kind of contest that Tyler and I were talking about. It didn't come to fruition because we kind of didn't follow up on it. But while we were at the baseball series last week, we said, how many degrees of separation are we from Shaq? Like, could we get him on an interview for this, and who would we contact to then get a hold? And it was not like as simple as you probably just figure out who his agent. Like, we wanted a degree of separation from Shaq.
Yeah.
How many degrees of separation from Shaq do you think you are?
Probably like 5, and I'm thinking of like the Caruso angle.
Okay, interesting. I think I could get there in 3. Like, he would be the third.
Wow.
But because I kind of started putting feelers out, and then it's crossover season. Like, everything else happened, so I didn't follow through on it.
Yeah.
But I think
that's wild.
I could be three degrees of separation. So this weekend, we got basketball, baseball, softball, everything happening. But more importantly, we were just talking about this before. Is there anything better in life? You are a dad.
I am.
You have.
Is there anything better
one?
than that? There maybe 1 or 2 things.
Okay. Well,
or tied.
In that same vein,
yes.
Is there any? Because I'm remembering back. Is there anything better than Saturday morning donuts with Dad?
Oh man, no. It's hard to top that for sure.
I mean,
like right before going fishing, or just like right before just.
Well, I don't want to go
hanging
fishing.
out. Okay,
I hate
watching
fishing.
TV.
Okay,
watching sports all day. I don't care. But Saturday morning donuts. We can at least.
What's your donut order?
Apple fritter and a sausage roll, or a klobasniki, or kolache, whatever you want to call it. And like if I was going real crazy as a kid, a chocolate milk too. But nowadays it's a black coffee.
Okay.
So apple fritter, kolache, black coffee.
It definitely depends on the donut store. Like which one you're going to.
Yeah. And like Shipley's, like if that's what we're talking, just because that's the closest spot to my house, I would get an apple fritter, and then like I'd maybe dip into a little something else, like get a half dozen or a dozen assorted. Ooh. And then just eat whatever nobody else eats. That type of thing.
I'm going to get some kind of combination of donut holes, a glazed donut, especially Shipley's glazed donuts are just
they're fantastic.
Magical. And then a chocolate sprinkle. You got to throw a chocolate sprinkle in there.
Hey, man, let's go.
And then on top of it, this could be controversial. I have to have a soda. I have to have. Now in my day, it's going to be like a Diet Dr. Pepper. But back in the like the younger days, I needed like a Dr. Pepper or a Pepsi, because you need that burn to go with the sweetness of the donut.
No
thoughts.
That's dumb.
Why is that dumb?
That's sweet and sweet. That doesn't.
What do you drink?
And not black coffee with a donut. There's no better pairing of that. Like there's the bitterness and the boldness and like maybe a little bit of acidity of the coffee, and then there's just the sweet donut.
But how many? Like I drink the black coffee, and I agree with you. It's good too. But like, how many people also, if they're going to drink the coffee with it, have sugar, cream, like all kinds of other stuff in there that basically is the same sugar value as a soda?
I mean, I guess, but I wouldn't do that either. Is what I'm telling you.
Okay.
I just like the way that I think about it is, have you ever had a bowl of ice cream and a soda? Because that sounds awful. I'm not talking about combining them into a float.
Yeah.
Because if you do that, that's different.
That's disgusting.
Have a bowl of ice cream. Go
Okay,
get some of the Bluebell.
but are
that
you
was delivered
talking
here.
about having? Okay, here's where we're gonna get really into my weirdness.
Okay.
With a bowl
There's
of cereal,
only so much time we have
the
today,
bowl of
Travis.
cereal, is there milk in it?
Yes. Why would there not be?
Because I don't have milk in my cereal.
We've gone beyond what we wanted to talk about with this, and I'm disappointed in you. have a bowl of ice
Do you
cream.
expect anything different though?
No, have a bowl of ice cream and take a sip of your soda of choice and tell me that soda does not taste like garbage.
I do that
because you're okay. Well,
I drink coffee. I'd eat
My
coffee, ice cream, and drink a soda. That's actually what I would definitely 100% do.
all right. Let's talk about something less nauseating like baseball.
Really now. Let's start first actually with the goings-ons of Tuesday night. I think that's well, to you that's a little bit more coffee and donuts.
Which Tuesday night event
well,
are we talking
fair.
about?
That is saying the one that happened indoors.
Yes, the big one.
Texas A&M goes out, beats number 1 Auburn. It's the first time in the history of the program that they've beaten a number 1 team.
Isn't that wild?
In 10 opportunities. Buzz made a point. He's had a long career. That was only his 4th game against a number 1 team.
Yeah.
And he's been at Marquette and Virginia Tech, and so that is pretty fascinating.
And when he was an assistant at A&M, Kansas might not have ever been number 1 when they were playing A&M.
Yeah, just running into a number 1 team in college basketball.
It's kind of rare because there's only one of them.
Different than
at a time, right? Yeah,
yeah, than anything in football, and so that happened. But then right afterwards, it was hard to even remember or talk too much about that happening because right after they told everyone, don't go anywhere. Buzz got on the mic. They turned the lights down. They already said there was going to be a special presentation. They didn't let the students rush the floor because I'm going to put this in quotes for those of you who are listening, retired Wade Taylor the Force, number 4. Now, they didn't actually retire it because the only number that's retired in the entire athletic department is John David Crow's 44.
Right.
But it is honored is really what it is.
Yes.
It is like AC Law's number 1 is up there in the rafters.
Yeah, but there have been number 1. In fact, there's a number 1 right now. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And so it will probably remain in rotation.
It's like his number was honored, not retired.
As the fan, you're the fan voice of this. What do you think about A, Wade Taylor getting his number honored in the rafters, and B, do you agree with the decision?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm all for it. The dude, well, I don't want to jinx anything, but like the dude's gonna be the all-time leading scorer, and the way that it's honestly, it's a miracle. And I think Buzz even said this too. Like, are you fixing my camera shot? Real quick?
We'll just
Hello.
We'll just move. Oh no, we're going back.
Too far.
This is producing on the fly.
Come on
okay,
back this
what
way.
were you saying?
He is going to be the all-time points holder, and I think Buzz even mentioned this. Like, it's a miracle that has, in this day and age of college athletics, been surpassed by somebody in the early 2000s, right? Like, that's a very, very big deal that we were able to hold on to a guy like Wade for as long as we did, and for him to score as many points as he has. And, like, he's been the glue and the instrumental force behind a lot of, pretty much all of Buzz's teams, right? I forget that year, the COVID year, he wasn't, because he started in 21.
He started 21.
Right. So, it was Josh Nebo. Mm-hmm. And then Wade Taylor. Like, I would say those were the guys of Buzz's teams, like Boots and Q and people like that. But Wade was present through all of that, and he was scoring points through all of that too. So yeah, I love it. And you're not you're not saying nobody else can wear the number. And the only other guy that's up there is AC Law. And can you think of anybody else that you would maybe put up there? Like Caruso could be good, but I think you'd put Caruso's number up there also in part thanks to his professional contributions to the sport.
We were having this discussion the other day. Wade Taylor is a better college basketball player than Alex Caruso was. Alex Caruso was a good defender, and he had a lot of steals.
Yeah.
But he wasn't the same kind of all-around player that Wade Taylor is.
I think that would be the next person on the list if you start thinking about, okay, who should get their jersey number up there in the rafters. I think Caruso would be the natural next choice because I don't really know who you'd discuss after that. Like,
how do you feel about
in the modern era that I'm thinking? I don't know, maybe Josh Carter. maybe Daniel House. I don't know. So, like, I think there's a pretty steep drop-off. And all these guys were incredible people and contributors to the program. But, like, yeah, I mean, for me, it's AC Law and it's Wade and then everybody else. So
how do you feel about his number is honored, retired, before his career is even over?
Well, because I think Buzz might have mentioned as much, like, when else were we going to do that?
Mm-hmm.
And you might as well do it. You just beat the number one team for the first time ever. So, like, there was no better time to do that. I don't know what the plan was if we lost, but it doesn't matter because we didn't lose.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess we'll never know. But, yeah, if there are people that have a problem with it, I find it difficult to find a problem with it.
So,
listen, the A&M basketball program is not very storied. Right?
No.
So why not add a really good story to it, right? This dude who has bought all in, not only on Aggie basketball and trying to make the Aggie basketball program something, but, like, is just a good Aggie too. Like, isn't he working on his masters and stuff? And like, let him have it.
Let's look at some of his stats here. This is where he lines up in the record books. He, of course, is second. He needs 9 points to 9 points to surpass Bernard King's number. He is first already in free throws. He's third in career steals. That's the one that Alex Caruso owns, the top one. He's second in 3-point field goals. He can pass that one.
Do you know who owns that one? Off the top of your head?
I did not. Not off the top of my head.
Okay, that's fine.
I brought my... I was going to bring my iPad in here.
I would have to assume it's somebody in this millennium, but I could be wrong.
I left my iPad over in your weather center.
Darn it.
So hopefully that gets fixed before they go on the news. So there is also he's in the field goal or free throw percentage. He's first. I didn't put that one on here, but that's still going to fluctuate as he's currently first. You'll know the final once this career is over. And he is up there in assists. He's like seventh in that. So pretty much any category that's going to be important as a point guard, he is up there in. We start the discussion. I mean, who else, when you talk about the best players in A&M history, who else comes to mind in those same kind of categories?
Well, and I mean, this is where I kind of date myself as far as my watching of Aggie basketball, but my Aggie basketball knowledge essentially starts at Billy Gillespie to now.
Well, and you could argue that is
about
the history of the program.
Yeah, I mean, so I think of guys like Antonis Kavalauskas and Josh Carter, like a lot of those dudes in the original Billy Gillespie teams, but I couldn't tell you their numbers or anything like that. Like Daniel House, Jalen Jones, but like Wade Taylor's the one who's been a contributor from like start to finish, and the only other guy that I can really think of who has been like just such a glue guy and for so long, like had such a long tenure, is Caruso.
Mm-hmm.
Like contributed starting as a freshman, and
the local connection.
Yeah, right. The local connection.
Did you know he was the ball boy?
I did know he was the ball boy. Dash Harris is another guy that I would think of, but I don't know that he even touches, especially points scored, because he was very much a facilitator. Donald Sloan, I think, probably should have been one of the first ones that I thought of and mentioned. Could absolutely be a dude. Like Brian Davis. Like I'm thinking of guys that were like, enforcers. Robert Williams, maybe if he'd have stayed another year.
Robert Williams was. I feel like that's getting into the era where I actually start knowing some of these guys, and he was so much potential.
Yeah,
Robert Williams was potential. He was a great defender. He was a great shot blocker. He really had no offense.
Sure, and that's fine. I mean, like
Tyler Davis. Yeah, you talk about.
I think you just get in the weeds after a certain point. Like AC Law, Wade Taylor, Caruso. I think Donald Sloan should be up there, and I don't know. Dare I say everybody else after that?
Yeah.
Dash Harris, I think could be, but I don't know that. Yeah,
I mean, I think it's perfectly makes perfect.
If Boots had started and finished his career here, I think Tyrese Radford would be somebody in that consideration.
Well, I'll bring this up and put this graphic up because it'll jog our memories a little bit. Here's the other key point about Wade Taylor. Right now, heading into this weekend's game, he's the 8th most winningest player.
Oh, Dominique Kirk was one that I forgot about.
Texas A&M basketball history. At 91 wins. A long run. I believe a long run in the both the SEC tournament and the NCAA tournament could get him to be the winningest player, if not definitely in the top 5.
Yeah.
With a couple more, or 10 or so more wins in this. But a lot of those names that you mentioned on there, I think Brian Davis is one that stands out, especially too because of his contributions now on the or he has
staff.
had conversations on the staff. Yeah.
Right. Dominique Kirk is one that I'm kind of ashamed that I forgot. I thought about BJ Holmes, but I just didn't mention him. He was also a great player. Nathan Walkup, did not realize that he was in
solid.
that.
He really missed out not being a baseball player.
Yeah,
that was really his true calling.
Yeah, and his little brother went on that run at SFA, and they took down somebody in the tournament.
That was like
his
2016,
senior year.
2017.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But Josh Cart, I'm kind of proud of myself. Most of the names that I was floating around are up there. So, hey y'all, it's Max, and if you've been watching the pod, you know this by now that we have a new official sponsor of the Aggie Game Day Extra podcast, and it is a familiar face. You know him. You have seen him around Aggieland for many, many years. Say hello to C&J Barbecue. Now, I don't know if there are many of you out there, but if you live in the Brazos Valley and you have not been to C&J Barbecue yet, what on earth are you guys doing? The crew at C&J started out smoking just about 20 pounds of meat a day in a tiny gas station on a Harvey Road. Now, they serve over 2,200 pounds every single day across 3 locations. So you know it's good. They've fed President Bush, catered for Willie Nelson. Yeah, Willie. But most importantly, they've been feeding Aggies and locals for over 40 years. In fact, I had myself some at a catering event last weekend, and the brisket was absolutely amazing. Don't even get me started on the sides and the appetizers because Justin is always cooking up some amazing stuff. Just get there, see, smell, and taste for yourself. Tell them the guys sent you. C&J Barbecue, a family tradition.
Yeah, it was a cool moment. Buzz had said it was a seed that he had been planting in both the previous administration's head and this current administration's head, and kind of got a little bit more adamant about it each time, and that he wanted this to happen because there has to be the worry that once a player gets away, especially a guy like Wade, who I don't think
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I don't think anybody would argue that the potential for him to have an NBA career is probably as much as we had said Alex Caruso, just because of his size.
Right.
He is a better scorer than Caruso, but he is going to be extremely undersized for college ball. He's going to be extremely undersized if he makes it to the NBA or the G League or whatever. And so once you get away, so much of the thought about players once they get a couple years removed is, okay, well, what did they do in the pro ranks?
Yeah.
I think that it was maybe wise of Buzz to say, This is his peak. If it's going to happen, it needs to happen now, and it does need to happen.
I think so too, for a variety of reasons, right? Just give credit where credit is due for him scoring points and being such an integral part of the team for as long as he has been, right? Mm-hmm. And I also, I think we're going to be at an impasse at the end of this season, and I think I said a couple weeks ago I'm not going to make predictions, and I'm going to try to be as vague as possible here. But some decisions will have to be made at the end of this season, regardless of where we end up. If we lose out the rest of the season, or if we go to the Elite Eight or Final Four, decisions have to be made. And what I want to talk about specifically about that is how much additional resources are going to be given to Texas A&M basketball to decide our trajectory from here on out. Right? Would you disagree with that? There are 2 roads I think that we can take. Yay? Nay? There's always more than 2 roads.
Sure.
We invest a lot more than we have been historically.
I was trying to see which roads.
Or
put some street signs up.
Right. Okay. We invest a lot more than we have been historically, or we try to keep keep making something out of nothing.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I am saying with that is you need to buy in on guys like Wade Taylor, Henry Coleman, like these dudes who produce from Wade Taylor's perspective, and then like your vibe guys like Henry Coleman, and you try to keep them around the program as much as possible, right? As far as them being associated with it, and just like the general engagement of the fan base, and just like people, good feelings around the program, right? And you try to keep them as involved with the program as possible, because you need reasons for people to associate Reed Arena with being a place that they want to go. I think that is step number one. You need to improve that environment, and I think a way that you do that is you keep people like that coming back. Saw Admon Gilder at the Tennessee game a couple weeks ago. I didn't talk to him because I didn't want to bother him, but I was just really, really glad that he was back. Like, I think
that's even a guy
like
who
that,
didn't finish his career here.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if he would have, I think maybe, depending on what would have happened that year, maybe he could have been a guy who got his jersey up in the rafters too. I'm kind of going off on a tangent here, but my point is you need to keep creating stories within the program, and I think you're capitalizing on what has been a really great story with Wade Taylor, and you're adding some tangible legacy to the program to say, like, hey, here's a great springboard into something even better.
If you
am I way out in left field here?
No, well, I mean, I think to summarize or say it in a different way, there isn't a whole lot of standard bearers for the program to say, hey, we want that kind of guy.
Yeah,
we want if you are an A&M administrator or an A&M fan, you want a guy who is dedicated, stays 4 years. Not saying there's anything wrong with the guys that don't, but that's what you want in a guy that you honor in the rafters. You want a guy that excels statistically, but then also is a big part of the community. You see, he does a lot of things with the Boys and Girls Club here. Then with the school, he earned, and I got to go to the ceremony last year. The Buck Weiris, is it Weiris or Weiris? Buck Weiris Spirit Award. It's put out by the Association of Former Students.
Yeah.
And it's a very small class of people each year that get this award. It comes with a nice watch for contributions back to the university that go kind of over and beyond. And his the bullet points on his bio wasn't just really good basketball player.
Yeah.
It was community involvement and getting active, being involved in Blueprint, which is a student organization for black athletes, and being a part of the founding of that. So I think that's maybe a little bit what you're trying to say. In a program that doesn't have a rich history of a lot of players you can point to and say these were the pillars of the program. If you're going to start doing that, that's the kind of guy that you want to be in the rafters.
He is absolutely the person that you can argue that you start that with, and you can show that to a recruit coming in who is going to be that I'm here every single day giving it 110% type of stuff that like you could hopefully build around, and you're saying like, look what this is possible. So you take care of Wade, right? Mm-hmm. He's recognized, and you always make sure he's welcome back, and maybe that leads to him contributing financially to the program in some way, or just being there to rouse up a crowd like on occasion. I don't know. Maybe that's just wishful thinking, but I think that could be a benefit to recognizing a guy like that. Is like, let's create some momentum of a legacy within this program.
Because I argue, and this might be on the edge of your basketball fandom, but would you have been able to recognize Bernard King, the points leader for if he walked into the gym? Well, he did walk into the gym on Saturday or Tuesday.
Probably not. I honestly I don't think so.
And it's kind of always been that case where the biggest celebrity that could come to a basketball game, which happened on Tuesday, is like Johnny.
Right.
Is a football player.
Johnny and Mike and Swope, right?
Right. Or Gary Blair. If they put him up on the screen, it's going to get a good applause. But yeah, that is starting that tradition of, okay, I see this guy. He came down courtside. His number's up there. So even if I don't completely know, I know his number's up there. So probably should clap.
Right, exactly. And I think you bring up an interesting point of like the people that we have at Reed Arena that we're recognizing of a lot of ways are the football people.
Mm-hmm.
Like Johnny, Mike, and Swope are here. Mike Elko's here. Like, hell yeah. Like, we're really glad that you're here.
A brief aside, former TCU quarterback Trayvon Boykin at the game.
Applause.
It was kind of weird. I covered him when he was at TCU, so that was a weird run-in.
Do you remember when Giannis was here? Giannis?
Yeah. That was weird.
He was at Kyle Field. I don't think he made it to Reed Arena, but like that's I don't know. Yeah, and you want a guy like that, obviously, where you can bring footballs in to basketball and get an elicit crowd response and stuff like that. But yeah, like I don't know, Caruso being here would probably like generate some sort of response. He might have even been there for all I know. No, he's busy. He's busy right now.
Yeah, he hasn't come back to many games
like
because he's still playing.
But like when those types of people are retired, like a Chris Middleton, a Caruso, a Robert Williams, stuff like that. I hope those are people that you bring back.
Caruso's got to, if they're going to continue with this trend of honoring numbers, Caruso's got to be the next guy.
I would have to think so, yeah.
And especially because of the local ties.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you want to get a little bit tangential, Wade Taylor's mother is from Madisonville.
Yeah.
And so, he came to games with his mom and grandmother when they came down to visit and visited College Station before he was even an Aggie. So that local tie, if you want good stories to go along with it, that exists there. And I think Caruso fits that bill. So,
yeah. And like I said earlier, regardless of what happens the rest of the season, I think that was your best opportunity to do it. And Travis, I'm not going to make any more predictions about how the rest of the season is going to go because I have no idea. I mean, I think we're going to beat LSU, but we very well could lose to LSU. But I said this a couple weeks ago, and I think this is still the case. I think it is just as likely that we make it to the Elite Eight as it is we get booted out the second round.
Just a brief. It looks like the LSU game wraps it up. That's where Wade needs just a little over a handful of points to break the record. Next thing is Nashville for the SEC tournament. It looks like most likely 5 or 6 seed for the Aggies in that. There's
which is so
really
wild.
Slim chance for a 4 seed where you get the double bye, but a 5 or 6 seed.
Doesn't South Carolina have to beat Tennessee in order for that to happen or something?
And there's another win in that. They need 2 games to the 2 upsets for that to happen. So that'll give them the 1 bye. And I know it's something we're probably going to get into potentially next week, but I don't think how much of this is going to be like the baseball tournament where if you know that you're in the NCAA tournament, is it better just to kind of
maybe
get out and run? No one's going to throw a game, but if you lose, it's not necessarily the end of the world because you're already going to be in the NCAA tournament and probably the seed's locked in for the most part anyway. So
I think that's entirely possible. Then you're going to get the teams like Mississippi State, probably Texas, who are fighting for not only I think Mississippi State's in no matter what, but you know what I mean, the middling conference teams who are no, we want to win this tournament.
The last couple of years, because that's exactly. I mean, I think it's been proven that those tournament games didn't necessarily help a ton,
right?
But you don't want to risk it more to chance and lose out early.
Yeah, exactly. I think Texas, the Mississippis, maybe even Kentucky to an extent.
And the teams that have made it all the way to Sunday haven't necessarily done well in the NCAA tournament in some of the years past.
That's true.
Because it is a grind playing every day out there.
But then there's just some teams who you almost feel like, no, let's keep them playing at a pretty regular pace, and so they don't lose any momentum. I don't know.
Put this team as one of those because of how hard this. I think they needed that little bit of adrenaline juice to beat Auburn because this has been a grind of a season, especially going back to non-conference. I think this is a team that probably actually would do good for a little bit of rest.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think I would love an SEC tournament championship, but if we go kind of 1 or 2 and done, I probably wouldn't hate that either, to be honest.
Let's switch gears real quick. I know we both need to get out of here. It's a busy day, but What is before we get into just a little bit of baseball, what does baseball forecast look like this weekend?
So we're both Diamond Sports this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say Friday, especially, no excuse, get to one of those. I think they both first pitch is at 6:00. I'm pretty sure for both softball and baseball. Get to one of those. Parking might not be the easiest thing, but we've done baseball and basketball before, so we can do baseball and softball as far as parking is concerned. Go to one of those, right? Support both of these, I think, very good teams. One of them, we've got some work to do, I think, a little more than the other one. But, like, great programs, right? Obviously. Go support them. Friday, weather is going to be pretty much perfect. About what you'd expect, maybe a little bit chilly in the evening, that type of deal. Maybe more clouds than what we want. Yada, yada, yada. Saturday could be interesting.
Okay.
I believe men kickoff, or first pitch is at 2, and I believe women's first pitch is at 4. I'm more confident that 4:00 one will be drier, but it looks like it's going to be another windy one on Saturday, and I think for the most part it's going to be dry.
What direction? The direction
it'll
of the
be
wind.
Another like northwesterly wind.
Okay, so that's blowing in.
kind of blowing into or like almost left to right in the stadium. So that'll I don't know how much that affects softball as much as I do baseball, but like it'll be kind of similar to what we saw on Tuesday, although that didn't hurt UTSA all that much. But Saturday is kind of it won't be perfect weather, but it'll probably be fine. I think there's a very small chance there's a storm around the area mid to late afternoon, but right now I would expect that to all stay to the east of us. Sunday should be great, but chilly again. So like a chilled sunshine, kind of breezy type of afternoon, kind of like that first Sunday of the season.
Okay,
but I think not quite as chilly and not quite as windy.
So we're not putting our coats away just yet.
No, I don't think so. I think you'll probably want it on Friday, and for sure on Sunday, and some of us might even be good to have one on Saturday too. So because it's going to be pretty breezy. So not perfect weather, but like nothing that'll keep you from getting to the ballpark, I don't think.
Getting your pretzel. If it's cold, you can hold on to that pretzel. It's a little bit of warmth. Yep. I think we forecasted this baseball team not so great, at least to start out with, because they've had their struggles. And to me, I think the way I was talking about it with my wife, and we mentioned this earlier, they've been really bad at defense, and defense in baseball is like free throws in basketball. Like you got to play good. You got to play near perfect.
It's almost
defense.
A non-negotiable, right? Like if you're going to win games, you have to. The
variance is in pitching and hitting, but defense should be just constant.
Right. Like that should be second nature, that type of stuff.
Right. The UTSA lost 5 errors.
Yeah.
I went back to the 2011-2012 season because that's the earliest that the little NCAA stats website gives you game-by-game lines. They'd never have had 5 errors in a game. 4 a couple times, never 5.
Yeah,
that
tough,
is just
man.
how you lose a game. I think some of that is guys in different positions. Even to start out with, before Gavin Grahovic got hurt, which that was a whole nother issue defensively too, but Wyatt Hensler was playing second base. That's not one of his normal positions. You had Gavin Cash out in the outfield. That's a new position for him. Caden Kent has moved over to shortstop. It's not a new position. It's not one he's played at the college level with any regularity. You mixing in... you might be mixing in like a Terrence Keel at second base. Sawyer Farr is a freshman in there. I think when they built this team, they saw a lot of potential and just a lot of production, not even potential production at the plate. But I think they thought that maybe they can get away with plug and playing some guys defensively, and that hasn't shored up. That hasn't worked out for them.
Yeah, and I think Terrence Keel has been a bright spot in the fielding department because it seems like wherever we put him, he seems to excel. And I think from a hitting perspective, Keel's been one of the better ones, but I think Caden Kent has been like the obvious bright spot as far as hitting is concerned. It seems like he's starting to like settle into a pretty decent groove. And
even Jace Laviolette's been lost as far as hitting goes for the last few games, but he's been able to draw walks, get hit. He's still produced RBIs and has scored runs, which has been helpful for them. It always goes back to, like, when you look at the 2021 team for A&M, they couldn't even get guys on base, let alone drive them in, and that's when you really have to worry about an offense. But when you have an offense like last night, who still won, but they left 9 guys on base. Getting that one extra hit, you can get that to click and start coming around at some point in the season. But when you're a team that is losing and not putting up many runs, and you're maybe leaving 2 or 3 guys on during the game, that's when you really have that's usually the indication to me of like, okay, this offense is bad.
It's still so early, but we do have an okay sample size now. It just seems to me like this is not going to be a team like last year where we're trying to get as high of a seed as we can, as much advantage going into the postseason as possible. I think this is going to be the type of team that's just going to have to get hot at the right time in order for us to maybe do something that we haven't done before. I don't think it's impossible by any stretch because it's baseball. And I think you don't even need to look any farther than that Ole Miss team that one year that won it all, right? Mm-hmm. I think the talent is absolutely there, but I don't think this is going to be the type of the team where at the end of the season we're expecting a national seed, right? Mm-hmm. I think we just got it. We will just have to get hot at the right time.
Right. I think right now you have to think the best case scenario is just getting to be able to host.
Right. Yeah. You want to host. You want to host a regional,
and that's going to take a heck of a run through SEC play.
Just based on what we have seen so far, I would be pleasantly shocked if we host a super. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think is still very possible. I just for my own
you have to
sanity,
kind of have to get in that national seed territory.
Right. For my own sanity, I just have to assume that's not going to be the case this time around.
They got to play better defense. Michael Early talked. I'm going to write about that today. He talked about the fact that they've been working on really. This part in the season, especially when you're playing multiple midweek games, usually it's just roll into the clubhouse, get dressed, play the game, get out of there, take some BP in between. But he said they did a hard defensive practice before the game yesterday, and they are going to continue that practice of doing hard defensive practices in the mornings before some of the games, the midweek games, just to try to get those more reps and get the whatever mental hang-up might be hanging in there too.
And that's another thing is like I'm almost grateful for the midweek games now, whereas like last year especially I was like, do we even need to play this? Like let's just get on to the weekend series. And yeah, I don't know. I feel like we could talk all day long about baseball, but
it's a talking sport, Max.
It sure is. It sure is. And we'll do plenty of that this weekend too, but they just got to keep going out there until they figure it out. Cuz I think that they can. I don't know if they will, but I think that they can.
And I think that applies to both the players and the coaching staff as well.
Absolutely.
Because there's still some pretty new.
This next month or so could be really flippin' awesome, or it could be just miserable, or it could be somewhere in between. And I think you could probably say that about most things in life, Travis. But we'll see.
You know what I have to say about that? You can find all of it on KBTX.com because we're going to be out there over at the SEC tournament.
I'm ready for
the
some
NCAA
bubbles,
tournament.
Yeah,
we'll be at the college baseball and softball games here in Bluebell Park and Davis Diamond. So check KBTX.com, the KBTX Sports app. Also, go ahead and download the KBTX Weather app while you're at it.
Do it. We have 3 apps that are all very frequently updated.
Yes, and if you have the KBTX Weather app and you're one of those weirdos that keeps your ringer on, you can hear Max yelling at you about that there's inclement weather coming.
If there's rain
literally
coming your
Max's voice. That's my favorite part of the KBTX Weather app. So we'll have all of that for you. We'll probably be doing this live from Nashville, me and Tyler, next week.
Love that.
Because
love that
it'll be SEC tournament up there, so get some hot chicken. And we'll be back then with a little bit more podding. So for not any of the sports team today because they're busy, Max Crawford, I'm Travis Brown. This is the Aggie Game Day Extra podcast. We'll see you next week.